I mean, they got, judging by what this is saying, a public forum got 49 guests, one user active in the past 15 minutes.
Huh. Okay. Hey, folks, it is January the 7th, 2021, and we are going over chapters 104 and 105, which have to do with the Renaissance. Which brings us to our terms. What was the Renaissance? Why did it start in Italy? Dante, Petrarch, Boccaccio, and humanism. Just as a note, we are going to have a lecture tomorrow, but we're not going to have another lecture until next Friday, because next week we have benchmarks and online students are expected to come for the benchmarks. You're supposed to get information about that. And that means really like Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday, the teachers are going to be tied up with that. So Wednesday is our next lecture after tomorrow. So yeah, like y'all, I don't know what y'all are going to do because y'all only take like what, 2 benchmarks? No, I don't know what you're going to do the rest of the time. No, you're going to have a teacher babysit you, and other teachers are going to give those teachers things to do.
You're hilarious, Louis. So if we go home, what if I just act like I'm not done?
I'm not giving you your benchmark, so I don't know. So in any case, kids, yeah, what they try to do is they try to make it where the large group takes the test with the teacher who teaches the subject. They try to do that. And then you have other people who have other accommodations and stuff. So like get pulled out. So I don't know. I don't know. I'm assuming it's going to be with your ELA coach. Hey, all right, let's go ahead and get through our stuff today. So, all right. So Petrarch, he's an Italian poet from the city of Florence. Florence is going to have a lot of people. Like your book's correct to say that in Italy, because of its success in both its independent small countries, we call the city-states in Italy, and because the amount of wealth they have, they're able to have what we might call an upper class and a middle class that can afford things like art, literature, and some of the finer things other than working the fields all day. They're also able to help hire people who create these things. They also have time for leisure and thought other than just doing what they're told. And so Petrarch is one of these well-to-do people. He was actually a poet, but he also had a position in the Catholic Church as a deacon. And because he was a deacon, that opened up doors for him to go to these little monasteries that normal people weren't allowed to go in, right? And he could ask to look in their libraries. And if you remember, a lot of these monasteries had little monks who would sit there and they would copy manuscripts generation after generation. And some of them were ancient Greek they were ancient Greek works translated to Latin and ancient Latin works from the Romans. And so he goes around trying to preserve this stuff. He snatches up as much as he can. He buys them, he trades for them, and he brings them back home. And he's able to recreate them with his copyist. And he would like write poems and stuff like that was popular reading to Italians. And they were like, wow, this classical Roman stuff seems pretty cool. And so he's going to popularize the idea of people really digging into like ancient works. So he kind of like led this movement. Oh yeah. So then we have Dante, and Dante was around the same time as Petrarch pretty much. And he is also going to be really into the writings of Virgil. And of course, Virgil is going to be a big, important Golden Age Roman author and poet. And Virgil also writes basically Homer Part 3, right? He's going to write the Aeneid. It's like kind of what happens after the fall of Troy to the founding of Rome. He's going to write some other works as well. And he's also going to be really into Cicero. Cicero is going to be, if you remember, he was the Roman politician who really tried to maintain the republic and prevent the imperial dictatorships, the emperors, from coming about. and he's going to wind up losing his life for that. But Cicero is known as such a good public speaker and author and user of the Latin language that they're going to standardize Latin, and they're going to basically use as much as possible only the words that were used by Cicero and the way Cicero spoke and wrote. So he's going to be kind of like the model. It's like, yeah, sure, these three authors might have said this phrase this way, but Cicero one time said it this way, so we're going to use Cicero instead. So he was kind of like the basis. He's like the Webster's Dictionary of Latin during that time. Dante, of course, is going to write the Divine Comedy, which has the Inferno, has Purgatorio, and Paradiso. And so Dante is going to be in Florence. And if you remember, I told you one thing about Italian politics is they had all these small city-states that were independent. But the Holy Roman Empire, the Germans, claimed to rule over Italy, and they kept invading over and over. And this led to political parties within these city-states. One was pro-German Empire, pro-king, and the other was pro-independence. He was part of the independence movement. And because of that, due to politics, he's going to be exiled from his home. He's going to be kicked out of Florence. And that's going to give him a lot of time to write poetry and to write his Divine Comedy. And if you ever read Dante's Inferno, a lot of his political enemies are the people he's having tortured in hell. And they're actually still alive when he's writing it. He's like, I bet he's going to get that. He's going to get. So it's basically like a revenge piece, right? But the whole point of all three books put together is like the love of his life died, and he was like imagining a journey to meet her in heaven. So going through hell, purgatory, and finding her in heaven. Here he is being led into the gates of Hades by what was called a noble Virgil. So, all right. So Boccaccio, his friend and student, knew some Greek, and he's going to use his knowledge of Greek to help translate Homer and the Iliad into something that Italians could read. He's also going to write a book called Decameron, which is a lot like Italian's version of Chaucer. And yeah, it starts out with like these Italian nobles who are just like totally running away from the plague, and they go off to a nice estate and to pass time in between their feasting and dancing. They tell stories. And so they tell 100 stories to pass the time during all of this. And so, yeah, I guess you could think of it kind of like they have their COVID lockdown and they go like we're just watching Netflix together. All right. This is that one guy, Chrysolausus, I think his name was. So he was somebody who fled from Constantinople because he saw the unrest there. And he's going to teach Greek to Italians, and he's even going to write a textbook on it, on how to learn Greek, right? Greek for Dummies for Italians. And it's going to catch on fire. And then because of that, all of these works they preserved from Greece, they can now read. And so they're going to find that a lot of their texts from ancient authors that they had in Latin were wrong. They're like bad translations of Aristotle. Like, oh, Aristotle didn't say that. He actually said this. And so it's going to, they're also going to start getting the works of Plato. And like I said, Homer and all this other stuff. So it's going to help fuel the Renaissance to be not just a Latin thing, but also a Greek thing. And that's going to lead to an explosion in the arts. Because a lot of Latin authors were really kind of fixated on the law, right and wrong, whereas the Greeks were more about art and, of course, philosophical things. And this is going to help lead to a lot more inventiveness in the Renaissance. So, good stuff, good stuff. All right. So, oh, yeah. Of course, humanism is basically just the study of Greek and Roman culture, art, and thinking. Sir, smart kids. What was the Renaissance? What did that word mean?
Rebirth.
Rebirth. Rebirth of what? A new age? Like the computer age? The disco era?
Mario Brothers.
Mario Brothers? Yahoo!
Like education,
Education in what?
government,
What kind of government?
uh,
Italian? No.
You like some of that?
Greek and Roman. Yeah, the rebirth of Greek and Roman knowledge and art. They're like, because you got to remember, even in Italy, there was a lot of stagnation during the Middle Ages as far as the arts, as far as, well, okay, secularly. Now, as far as religious works and as far as religious culture, holidays and festivals, they had a whole big centuries of explosion and development in that. But as far as like secular things, like, like art, and science, things like that, not so much. I'm gonna put down here secular. So secular means non-religious. Art, knowledge, and language. And so many other things stem from that. So you'll have philosophy, you'll have engineering. You're going to really start learning how to use geometry better in order to build. Of course, there's going to be some bad things from the Renaissance. You're going to see in the Renaissance, like we talked about with the university system, you're going to see the birth of medicine. But it's not like they're making new inventions in the field of medicine. They're finding like the ancient works of people like Galen, the Roman doctor, or Hippocrates, right, the Greek. And they took everything they said verbatim and never challenged it. And so that led to some deaths, right? So why Italy?
Because that's where the greatest minds were.
Oh, I got three people talking. Say what?
Because that's where the greatest minds were.
The greatest minds were.
Italy accepted it the most.
7 months. Okay. Why would it start there?
Because it was more civilized.
There was more money than.
Yeah. So yeah, y'all are right. I think y'all are right. So yeah, they were lucky to have the right people help start it. That's true. So remember, they were independent. When you have a free people, you have a people that can learn. And you're right too, though. Money. If you don't have money, what do you care? See, they had a lot more money than the rest of Europe. Even all these kings, a lot of these cities were richer than whole kingdoms. So prosperity goes along with creativeness, like just works out. It was also the home of Rome. So Rome was there. And because Rome's there and so many of these ancient monasteries in the Roman Catholic Church, they still had all those texts from those little monks. The scribes were rewriting them. Now, it's a shame, too, because we're pretty sure, pretty good guesses, there might be some ancient works that the monks are like, I don't want to write that down. So they just kind of let it rot, right? And they're probably, we know from references from ancient authors, there's a lot of books that just don't exist anymore. We can't find them. And it's just, they didn't have printing presses. It took a lot of money and a lot of time and effort to write books. Home of Rome. Anything else y'all can think of?
It was easier to spread.
Yeah, it's easier to spread because they were travelers. And they had contact with other civilizations. So they got some of this knowledge from the Arabs. They got some of this knowledge from the Byzantines. They weren't just shut off from the rest of the world. like the feudal societies were. Feudalism, you're shut off. Feudal knights, remember, in their little manors, they might visit the manor next to them, but the serfs sure didn't. They were like on their little islands. They never left their little island. Good stuff. Yeah. Petrarch. Oh, no, wait, Dante. So Dante was known for, gosh, there was something I didn't mention about Dante. So, he's going to kind of standardize something. Y'all remember what he standardized?
Italian?
Yeah,
Like
so-
the little Florentine dialect?
Yeah, Tuscan. So he's going to standardize Italian. He's going to write the first popular book in a normal language, in a day-to-day language. Latin was pretty much dead by now. It was only spoken in church services, and royal officials would have their scribes write in Latin so other royal officials could understand it. It was an international language, but nobody spoke it conversationally. So yeah, popularize Tuscany to become really it's the Italian that people speak today, pretty much. Kind of like how Shakespeare's English, believe it or not, is the English we speak today. The words are a little different, but the structure is the same. Popularized become Italian, and that's a big deal. He didn't write in Latin. So you could be less educated and enjoy Dante. You might know how to read, you understand letters, but you don't know Latin. Well, you could understand Dante if you're an Italian. He also, what did he reference a lot? He loved, he loved classic authors, and Virgil being one of them. And so by him referencing them, they're like, whoa, who are these guys? Everybody loved Dante. Like, he was really popular. Dante wrote, from my understanding, in a poetic style of Latin. It was really skillful. Like, he was really good at it. And another thing too, the stuff he wrote, the way he described different particulars regarding hell, purgatory, and heaven was also widely accepted by the Catholic Church because it followed the rules and structures according to popular belief at the time. So they're like, wow, okay, cool. I was like, well, I don't think my friend Bishop blah, blah, blah is in hell. No, but you're right about this and that. So, all right, Petrarch. Petrarch is known as the father of, the Renaissance. So I kind of got him out of order. Father of the Renaissance. And what's he going to go around Europe collecting up?
Like old books.
Yeah,
Old books.
goes around Europe to collect ancient Greek and Roman texts. Let's see. Made copies for Italy. And so these things that were locked up in these super secret little libraries are now like for everybody. All right, now, yeah, I don't know. Somebody's got a problem, but it's not you.
Oh, no. Oh, no.
Hey, Boccaccio. So, Boccaccio, just real quickly, I'll just say he's just pretty much, he translated Homer. And popular author. Yeah. What's funny is that Boccaccio was really famous because he would listen to stories from merchants and traders who had been throughout different parts of the world that other Europeans hadn't. And so he was one of the first people who was writing to normal everyday people about what they thought China was like and stuff like that, right? And the Mongolians and all these other people that normal Europeans wouldn't even have like ever heard of before. So, of course, some of the stories are kind of bawdy about like failed romances and stuff like that. But yeah, so it's pretty popular during his time. He also wrote, if I remember right, some things regarding politics. I don't remember. All right, humanism, kind of a simple term. So, what was humanism? Really, what was the study of?
Just classics.
Yeah, the classics, not humans, like the human arts, right? So they called it humanism because it goes back to this word secular, because it's the study of human creation, not of things that refer back to the divine. Because most studies were kind of like, remembering, if you went to earliest schools, were about teaching you how to be working for the church. So this was how to more of the human arts instead of the theological arts. So study of human works regarding ancient Greece and Rome. So like, for example, your ninth grade literature class was a humanist course. You're there reading Homer and stuff like that. So,
we were supposed to read that.
well, yeah. Last year?
Listen to audiobooks.
I'm not gonna say that's bad, like on your own time.
I didn't even have a class. I was in one job.
But that's like a social studies course.
Yep.
Didn't you have a literature course last year? No reading, no English, no grammar?
We didn't read that. We did.
Oh, that's fine. I was just wondering. Yeah, you're at school. Yeah. I'm just saying, like here at this school, for ninth grade, they're supposed to read. Hey, that kind of does it for our notes today, kids. We're going to go over another chapter or two tomorrow. I have to look at the size and the scope of it. So, all right, Dr. Mayer.